everyone for being here, for making it here in this heat wave. I know I say this every day, but I really can't thank you guys enough. It's really quite something here. I remember when I was a student at LUMS, uh, we were, myself and a bunch of friends were we crossed from PDC to the academic block, and suddenly we were hit by such a blaze of heat that my friend actually paused and he looked up and he said, Jahannam bilkul iske upar hai." So I think that, I hope you know how much I appreciate you being here and braving whatever is out there. Um, I'm here to introduce Aneeqa Wattoo, who is my dear colleague, friend, someone who I speak to when I want to show her my poems that I write, that I don't show anyone nor ever publish. And she is the person who always assures me that I will be able to make it eventually as a poet if I try hard enough. I especially admire Aneeqa as a writer who has forged an unconventional path to writing. She has eschewed the conventional route of an MFA and instead has done what I believe all real artists in our context have to do in order to survive and make art, which is to improvise with their circumstances. And her circumstances include, of course, a no MFA, a very demanding job as a teacher of writing, and active intellectual life as a writer, but also, am I allowed to say this, Aneeqa, as a podcaster? And of course, as a devoted parent. She is the founder of The Creative Room, Pakistan's first online interdisciplinary humanities platform focused on South Asia. Please look it up, guys. It's on, you guys can find it on Instagram, especially. There are courses for learners of all ages. Her poetry has appeared in Meridian, New Ohio Review, Southern Humanities Review, and she has been nominated for the Pushcart Prize. Today, I want to say something about her work, something I have begun to see more and more clearly as time has progressed, which is her capacity to capture what it means to always be both an insider and an outsider in our situations. This is from her poem Dollhouse. I wonder how the faint London sunshine manages to erase me so efficiently, so completely every time. Until one of those absurd motorbike rickshaws targeting tourists races by and the notes of a loud Bollywood song slash the air, and I feel sudden improbable delight, recognizing in the sound something I cannot name, but which turns me briefly into somebody. And it slides into me the way a ray of sunshine slides perfectly, angularly, into the dark patch on a window pane. That all of London is a dollhouse, that I am a doll in the dollhouse. A tiny object in gloved hands of a woman in a factory, hunched over an assembly line. Here she describes walking in London, feeling even browner than I remember. This is a quote. Watching herself, another quote, from a distance, an object clad in red pants, practical blue toms. Until that moment when a Bollywood song turns me briefly into somebody. But this sense of displacement doesn't end when she returns home. In her poem, Midlife Crisis, she writes, after the long commute back home and feeding the baby dinner and putting him to sleep, I sit on the sofa staring into the darkness, my hands empty, no one left to hold or care for. But deep into the night, my hands go searching for your body. wrap themselves tight around your shoulders, as if by gathering you in my hands, I can gather everything that is slipping away: trees and trunks, time and beauty. I love these poems for their tenderness, for their realizations of being an outsider in the most intimate relationships we have. In that sense, she is always the writer, always in and out of place, always looking mystified at what she already possesses, always discovering it anew and turning it into words. This quality reaches its most powerful expression in her poem, Postpartum Dream. Let me read you this section. Reeling from all my body had lost in the delivery, the baby and the placenta, and so much blood, I found to my shock my shaky, amorphous sense of self gone too. Gone, and with it my firm and stable place in the universe. When I stepped out at sunset on the third day after the birth, pink clusters of bougainvillea blowing in the hot May wind. I love this moment in the poem because it turns the bougainvillea bloody, turns the pink of the flower into the blood splashed all over the trees. And it does it with such extraordinary deftness, with the precision of a real poet. This one image cracks open the violence that underlies the birth of every beautiful thing. And then there is this final line, these lines, and this is the final bit I'm going to read out. This is from her poem, Apartment Life. Later, the splash of water against the steel basin as you stack our used white plates against each other. At the dining table, I write on a white tissue paper with a blue pen. That quality of being so deeply enough for yourself, you remain at an inviolable distance from others. Your self-sufficiency, a bubble that stretches between us, threatening to burst at any moment. I prize these moments in Aneeqa's work because I feel in these moments she has been able to show us the place of the writer, to always be in a place without a place. Her work reminds us that being a writer means learning to live with this essential loneliness and finding ways to make it beautiful. Please welcome Aneeqa Wattoo.
Thank you very much, Bilal. That was very nice. Thank you. It's really wonderful to be here, especially with all my fellow mentors in the writing workshop. Thank you to Bilal for creating this space, for giving us this chance. It's wonderful here also to be presenting with Javeria Hasnain today. And a special thank you to my friends who have shown up. Okay, let's start. On the 7th of May, the morning that the Indian forces attacked Bahawalpur, leading to civilian casualties, the first time in our adult life we were witnessing not an escalation in conflict, but a war. My 4-year-old son rushed into the room, still wearing his white nightsuit, with tiny green and blue dinosaurs all over it. His face beaming, his eyes bright with excitement. "Mama, Pakistan army aa rahi hai," he said. I stared at him. He looked absolutely delighted. In a moment so horrible it was comical, I stifled a smile and said, "Allah kare na hi aaye beta Pakistan army." But ours is a house with 5 boys, my sons and their cousins. And anywhere you walk about, you will find at odd times in the day and at night, tiny green and blue toy soldiers ready for combat. One sits with a rifle pointing upward, one crouched with a cap in his hand, hiding from an invisible enemy on a plastic mound. While we were engulfed by a wave of panic, the boys rejoiced. They would finally get to see the toy armies perform in real life. This was going to be the grand finale of their summer-long play. Now, as a humanities teacher, the fact that my children were playing with toy army sets and routinely said things like, "We will throw bombs on the bad guys and drones will come," was, yes, mildly embarrassing to me. But even though we all agreed on the inappropriateness of this, like many things parents ignore, in the early years of numbed out exhaustion and resigned apathy, they also call parenthood, we let this slide. In short, we were complicit. The next day, while all of Pakistan held their breaths, my son Wali is playing with his mechanic toy tool set. He holds a screwdriver in one hand and a hammer in the other. "Mama, look, I'm going to fix this car," he says to me. I'm anxious and irritable. I grip the round palm-shaped handle of my coffee mug like a lifeline. I say, "Wali, can you fix me too? I'm also a little bit broken today." He pauses, then at a leisurely pace says, "Mama, I'm a little bit busy right now." The day the ceasefire is announced, I read Ada Limon's poem, The Leash. She writes, "Perhaps we are always hurtling our body towards the thing that will obliterate us." I don't know what I'm hurtling my body towards, but I know through the thick summer days and the sudden arrival of peace after war, our bodies still tense and confused with the suddenness, the non-eventfulness of peace, that I need to get active. So I join a new kind of yoga, aerial yoga. Let me tell you a little bit about it. Aerial yoga is a form of yoga in which you do seemingly impossible poses, contracting and squeezing your body into all kinds of contractions at absurd and unbelievable angles. Not on ground, but in air, with the support of a seemingly flimsy but actually very strong silk fabric shaped like a hammock. In the first class, the trainer just asks us to step one foot after the other into the hammock. I look up at the solid steel clasps from which the fabric hangs. They look sturdy. I climb into the hammock. When the trainer says aerial yoga does give you bruises, it's a kind of pain you'll get used to, I remain unfazed. The bunched fabric cuts into my feet, but I'm secretly thrilled. I'm the only mom in the class, and what's more, I'm a 2-time cesarean mom. I'm able to do it. I'm able to do it all. But it's in the third class that we try what's called the inverted frog pose. Squatting with your feet pressed to each other like a frog inside the hammock, holding pieces of cloth in each arm, we angle our elbows firmly against our ribs. Then the trainer says, in a very calm voice, the kind you hear in guided meditation videos, "Now you let yourself fall forward." My body freezes, my shoulders crunch up. The other 3 girls in class all fall forward, one by one, into their hammocks. The trainer, a wonderful woman whose name is Zainab, walks up to me and says, "The forward fall is one of the hardest parts. It's okay not to do it today." When I started aerial, I found it so hard to let go. My teacher made me do trust falls every day. The secret is to not think too much, to just let yourself fall. I don't have the heart to tell her this isn't reassuring advice for a person who has made a career out of thinking. That night, I read another poem by Ada Limon. She writes, "The soft, low voice instructs me to breathe with gusto and return to the body. The body, it posits, is safe. It is grounding. It is different than the skittering mind." It turns out that all my thinking and intellectualizing and theorizing about the self and the world also means that I cannot let myself fall, that I can't accomplish the feat of a flip at the end of a pose. It means that the impulse to fear comes more naturally to me than the intuitive trust in safety. To avoid falling in front of myself again, I skip the next yoga class and attend my son's classmate's birthday party instead. Now, for the uninitiated, let me tell you about the world of children's birthday parties. Your child gets invited, if he is lucky, to several birthday parties a year. If they are parties of his friends, you will know the other moms and have company. If they are not, you will stand alone by a jumping castle and watch your child succeed or fail at overcoming fear. Fall down, get up again, jump up and down, and ultimately, invariably, come out wailing and crying like a bat because children have tantrums. But my son's tantrum hasn't begun yet. I stand next to the huge yellow and pink jumping castle. I wave to my son every few minutes because, like adults, children also need reassurances from people they love that they will not leave them. Now, for the young writers here, if you want to learn anything about the element of excess in fiction and the grotesque, go and study the anatomy of a jumping castle at a birthday party. Inside the castle, itself a massive inflated balloon, there is another inflatable slide, as if the children didn't have enough altitude to jump to. The person who made the castle decided to add this element, play on top of play. And watching it in the heat, it hits me in the lazy logic of late afternoons looking after children at birthday parties that social media is the jumping castle for adults. We go high and we go low. We play, we perform, we do jumps and acrobatics. People witness us and sometimes applaud. Mostly they stand around indifferent, looking around. But we keep doing it. We feel adrenaline, the joy of expressing ourselves. The next moment, an absolute lull. Did I need to post that, we wonder? Then the vague, nagging feeling that none of it means anything. The posting, the likes, the show, the applause. At the end of it all, we leave feeling more tired than when we came in, unable to point out what about the play has exhausted us. But my thought is interrupted because Vali is shrieking. Tantrum time. I lift him out of the pool and dab his body dry with a blue and white checkered towel. The other moms are hovering around the food table, some sitting looking bored on the chairs, some forcing conversation in the 40-degree heat. Beads of sweat fall through their foundation and sunscreen and moisturizer and toner and vitamin C cream and hyaluronic acid. I quickly pull out my phone, open the camera to check my face. All 6 layers look intact. I wipe away the sweat from Vali's face quickly with a tissue paper and take out my phone. I crouch next to him and take a selfie. I check the selfie, and only when I'm satisfied do we grab the goodie bag, say goodbye, and go home. The writer Rachel Cusk in a podcast talked about the construction of selfhood and technology. She says that the problem with social media is that it turns you into an example of a person rather than a person. You can be the quote-unquote trad wife, a glass woman with glass skin. You could be an artist influencer parent in perpetual Zen mode, going for runs in the morning, doing yoga in the evenings, standing in her gym tights and sports bra in the kitchen, making cookies for her kids in little star-shaped cookie cutters. Or you can be a skinny mom with 2 children, something I wanted to be and look like for a long time. In real life, the Zen mode artist mom wakes up tired and depressed and does not go for a run. In real life, at the end of the day, she snaps at her husband and they have dinner in stony silence, perforated only by the buzzing of a fan. In real life, it took me 2 years of looking plump and curvy, my face round the way it used to be as a child, for me to get thin and take pictures that make me look like a version of a skinny mom with 2 kids. It took me 2 years of being a person before I could become an example of a person that you see on Instagram. But why is all this problematic? I asked my friend Ilma late at night the next day. It's the time for what we call our 3 a.m. conversations, when the kids are asleep and her husband is asleep and we debate the big, deep questions. Take the influencer Mavish Ahmed, for example, I say. What's wrong with an influencer like her becoming a role model? I really like her. For so many Pakistani women, she's helping them see patriarchy and its mechanisms so clearly in a way that they haven't before, and maybe even helps them find ways to resist it. Ilma pushes back. I mean, the problem is we're being given sanitized, nicely packaged, wholesale advice to get through life. Don't get hurt through a toxic pattern, it says. Draw a boundary. Do a 7-step skincare routine every night and you will have fixed some broken part of yourself that you didn't know was cracked. We are not suffering through the discovery of this knowledge. We are not going through the doubt, the uncertainty, the roving, the exploration necessary to make this knowledge true for us. Why, I say, do we have to suffer to arrive at knowledge? My life is hard enough. I want to be given knowledge on a platter. We find no definitive solution in our 3 a.m. conversation, so we hang up. But I keep thinking of the jumping castle, children flinging their bodies high up in the air, landing squarely on the inflatable surface. The next day, I go to my yoga class. I tell the trainer I want to try that pose again. I ask her to stand with me as I do it. At one point, she holds my hand in the most tender way possible. Gulping down my fear in a cracked voice that humiliates me, I ask her, "Will you catch me if I fall? Please don't leave." And she says in the most sincere, firm tone I have ever heard anyone say these words to me, "Aneeqa, I will not let you fall." It's so emotional. I stare into her eyes and mentally store away this moment to tell my husband later that this was the most romantic assertion anyone made to me in my entire life. I get in pose, do everything in my inventory of preparedness. I breathe slowly, I close my eyes, and then, not thinking of anything, I lean forward and let myself go. My body falls forward, landing right back into the hammock. The fabric stretches around my shoulders. Even before the mind can signal to the body that it is safe, I feel what the heart feels, the slow creeping jubilation of flight. To end, let me tell you a short story. One of my friends tells me about a moment she experienced. She says she doesn't know why, but it felt absurd. She had just come home from work when her husband told her that her mother-in-law had finally bought a chandelier for the living room. She should go and see it. So she goes to the living room and sees a very modern-looking, sleek chandelier hanging very low, almost above their heads. It has a metal frame and long, sleek, crisscrossing lights. It is completely unlike the traditional crystal chandeliers she remembers from her childhood visiting the drawing rooms of her richer relatives and friends. She sits down on the sofa and is transfixed looking at this new chandelier. In a while, her sister-in-law also comes and sits next to her. Soon, the mother-in-law joins them. She tells her mother-in-law it's beautiful. Then there is silence again. The three women still sit looking at the shiny modern glass ornament hanging in front of them. They look enchanted. They want to, but they cannot get up and leave. Soon, the men of the house pass by them and leave. They go out into the world. But the women remain sitting, looking at the chandelier. When I hear this story, I immediately want to write about it. This modern ornament inside a modern house. To me, the house looks like a cage, a very beautiful, pristine cage. And I wonder, what does it mean for women to sit and look at chandeliers, select curtain fabrics, hold a pencil and mark the height on the wall at which a painting will be hung in the home? What does it mean for a woman to beautify her home? How can we write this moment as neutrally as possible? How can we create moral and ethical expansiveness while writing this scene? How can we write against it and also inside it? I want to write about the woman looking at the chandelier. I want to make her alive. I want to do justice to each of her desires and to say exactly what terrifies her. But I also want her to get up and leave the room. I want her to leave the chandelier behind. Is it fair of me to make her get up and leave the room? Or should I let her do what she wants? Maybe she wants to stay in the room. Maybe she wants to sit and stare at the chandelier while men go out and see the world and do things in the world. Should I let the woman wish for herself what she wants? Is it my limitation rather than hers that a life lived entirely inside the home seems to me like a smaller life? When I sent Bilal Tanveer the description for this talk, he said this reads as a little preachy, make it less preachy. So I decided to go all in and make it completely preachy. Not listening to my mentors has been critical to my writing success in the past, and so I will remain consistent with that strategy. I highly recommend it to you guys as well, by the way. So here goes a list of why we must write. We must write because the chandelier is hanging. It has been hanging through the centuries, through the bright and dark days of the years, and it sparkles. It sparkles so bright you will be drawn to it. We write because we don't just want to sit and stare at the chandelier. We write because maybe a woman can swing a bat and shatter the chandelier into tiny little pieces. We write because we have to let ourselves fall to learn to trust that we will be caught. We write because खाने की मेज पे बोटी हमेशा पहले बेटों को मिलती थी और अब भी बहुत से घरों में पहले बेटों को ही मिलती है. We write because in my undergraduate class, out of 10 girls, 6 end up writing a personal essay that centers on their mother. A mother who they love deeply and want even more deeply and absolutely to not become like. A mother whose life they inspect clinically and sometimes generously, but whose life they unequivocally don't want to repeat. We write because we are grounded in the small and the everyday, and we so deeply yearn to be transcendental. We write because the patriarchal order is so insidious and smart, it will have you performing the role it allocates for you before you know it, before you can wink, before you dab the final layer, the 7th step in your 7-step skincare routine. We write because to arrive at truth is better than being handed truth on a platter. We write because we cannot rely on influencers to tell us how to live. We write because we are permanent imposters, all of us, the published and the unpublished writers, the successful and the unsuccessful writers, and we do it anyway. We write because our children will grow up and leave us. We write because everything is so ephemeral and we so badly want it to be permanent. We write because in writing we may build an archive of consciousness. An archive that lets the woman walk away from the chandelier and return to it later, knowing her own and the chandelier's place in the order of things. We write because real estate is rising in Lahore, and with all those rising housing societies, there are populations that are dislocated, there is earth that is pillaged, there is a world that gets hotter, and an environment that will have worse smog at the end of the year. We write because things have interesting names, such as the names of LDA-approved housing societies in Pakistan. We write because they play on desire and aspiration and sell people empty files, a particularly Pakistani invention of real estate deception. We write because in a land of scarcity, these housing societies signal the allure, the promise of abundance. Like the inflated jumping castle, they let people fly high before they fall. We write because we get to name things in the world when we write. So I looked up some of the names of the housing societies. Let me tell you some of these names. Dilkhush Colony, Dream Gardens, Eden Gardens, Fizaya Housing Scheme, Eden Palace Villas, Gosha-e-Ebab, Hyde Park, Icon Valley, Kingstown Housing Scheme, Lake City, Smart City, Regent Park, Sunny Park, Venus Housing Scheme, Tuxedo Housing Scheme, Satellite Town, Women Housing Scheme, Westwood Colony, Al Jannat Town, Green Palms Housing Scheme, Ravi Smart City, Emerald City, Posh Housing Scheme, Supreme City, Soul City, Central Park, Urban City, Dream Housing Society, Bismillah Housing Scheme, Palm Vista Lahore, Mid City, Victoria City, Sally Town North, Sally Town South. There are more, but I'll stop here. We write because we get to make lists like these, and we even get to talk about them. Thank you.